For more than 2,000 years, leaders have dreamed of building a permanent link between Sicily and the Italian mainland. While today, that dream is closer than it has ever been to becoming a reality. But it's also sparked one of the most intense and divisive debates in the country's recent history. Today, we're looking at the Messina Strait Bridge.
At the very heart of this massive project is this number, 3,300 meters. Now, that's the planned length of the central span. You know, the huge unsupported part of the roadway that's just going to hang right over the water.
And to put that number into perspective for you, this thing wouldn't just beat the current world record, it would absolutely shatter it. We're talking about beating the current champ in Turkey by almost a full kilometer. It's a structure on a scale we've literally never seen before.
Okay, so let's get right into it, because the answer to that question really truly depends on who you ask. Is this a shining beacon of progress and national pride? Or is it an incredibly expensive, totally misplaced priority?
To really get to the bottom of this, we're going to look at it from 5 different angles. We'll start with the sheer engineering ambition, then the economic promises being made, the very real price being paid by locals, the tough questions from critics, and finally, what this whole thing means for the identity of Sicily itself.
All right, first up, let's explore the bridge the way its biggest fans see it, as an absolute masterpiece of modern engineering and a symbol of Italian genius on the world stage.
So how do you even build something like this? Well, the plan itself is just colossal. First, they'll sink these massive anchor blocks into the land on both shores to hold everything down. Then, 2 steel towers are going to shoot up to a mind-boggling 399 meters high. After that, 4 gigantic suspension cables, each one woven from tens of thousands of individual steel wires, get strung across the strait. And finally, the deck, which is wide enough for 6 lanes of traffic and 2 railway lines, gets hoisted up piece by piece.
And you have to understand, the challenges here are just immense. The Strait of Messina is famous for its powerful winds. And oh yeah, it sits in one of the Mediterranean's most active earthquake zones. So the design has to be extreme. We're talking an innovative deck that can handle winds of 270 kilometers per hour, and it's built to withstand a massive 7.1 magnitude earthquake.
Now, for the money part of the argument. You see, proponents don't just see a bridge. They see an engine for prosperity that could lift the entire south of Italy.
The biggest, most immediate promise is a total revolution in how long it takes to cross. Right now, a train has to be slowly shunted onto a ferry, and the whole process can take up to 3 hours. Well, that would drop to just 15 minutes. For cars, a journey that can take over an hour, and way longer in the summer, becomes a simple 10-minute drive.
And the return they're predicting on this investment? It's staggering. The government has pointed to studies that forecast 120,000 new jobs, a 23 billion euro boost to the national economy, and hey, even a big drop in CO2 emissions from all those idling ferries and cars.
And the vision goes way beyond just the bridge. It actually includes new highway connections and, get this, what's being called a Strait Metro, a brand new rapid transit system linking Messina directly to the mainland. The idea here is total, seamless integration.
But underneath all the grand visions and the big promising numbers, there's a much more personal story playing out. For hundreds of families, this project isn't some abstract idea. It's a real-life notice of expropriation showing up on their front door. This quote from a resident whose home is literally slated for demolition, it just gets right to the heart of the fear that's gripping these communities. For so many people, it's just this feeling of sheer, terrifying uncertainty about what happens next. So the crucial point here is this feeling of being completely abandoned. Residents say they found out from the news that their homes, some of them brand new, were going to be torn down. They're talking about losing their life savings, getting no straight answers on compensation, and just a deep, deep distrust of the politicians making these life-altering decisions.
And all of this local anxiety, it feeds into a much bigger criticism of the project. This idea that it's a classic cathedral in the desert, a massive, grandiose project built in a region that's crying out for the most basic services.
This statement from a retired teacher in Messina just says it all, doesn't it? Critics are asking, how can you possibly justify a 13.5 billion euro bridge when local schools don't even have gyms, when hospitals are underfunded, and when in some places, clean drinking water isn't even a guarantee.
And this right here, this is the core of the opposition's argument. Why build a futuristic, high-speed link that connects to two regions where the huge majority of the existing rail network is old, outdated, and single-track? As critics say, it's like building a super-fast on-ramp that leads to a bumpy dirt road.
And beyond just priorities, critics are raising some serious red flags. The Strait is a major biodiversity hotspot, but there are also profound technical doubts. You have materials experts who are actually arguing that a single-span bridge this long just isn't feasible here, that the constant stress from the wind creates huge questions about material fatigue and the enormous lifelong cost of maintenance.
But to really get why this debate is so passionate on both sides, you have to understand this isn't just about infrastructure. The idea of bridging the strait is woven deep into the history and the very identity of Sicily.
I mean, this dream is ancient. A Roman consul apparently managed a crossing way back in 250 BC with a floating bridge of boats and barrels just to get elephants across. But the modern version has been a political football for decades, approved, blocked, revived, and then halted over and over again by different governments. And that brings us to what might be the most profound point of all, which Professor Carlos Scarpa captures perfectly. For the very first time in all of history, this project would physically and permanently connect Sicily to the mainland.
So, whether you think it's a marvel of engineering or a monument to folly, the bridge forces us to ask this really fascinating question. What happens when you erase a boundary that hasn't just shaped geography, but has shaped centuries of culture and identity? That's the ultimate question we're left with.